Loss, it's one of the hardest parts of being human. Losing a job, losing money, losing health, losing people we love. Every kind of loss leaves an ache that words can't fully capture. And when it happens, the first thought that crosses our minds is often, why me? Why did I have to lose this? What did I do to deserve this pain? But what if that very loss was not a punishment, but a mercy? Sometimes, what feels like the end of your world is actually the beginning of something better. Sometimes, the thing that slips out of your hands was never meant to stay, and its departure is making space for something greater to enter your life. Think about it. There were times you held on to something so tightly, a relationship, a dream, a plan, convinced it was the key to your happiness, and when it fell apart, you felt crushed. But looking back now, can you see how it saved you? Can you see how losing it shaped you, taught you, and protected you in ways you didn't understand back then? Loss often feels like breaking, but in reality it is shaping. When you lose something, you are being reminded of what truly matters. You are being pulled away from attachments that might harm you and pushed toward peace, patience, and growth. It's like holding a glass bottle full of poison, convinced it's water. You cling to it because you believe it will quench your thirst. But when it slips and shatters, you're devastated until you realize what you lost wasn't good for you at all. In that moment, what felt like pain was actually protection. What felt like loss was actually mercy. Sometimes you don't recognize the mercy until years later. The relationship that ended may have spared you from years of heartbreak. The job you didn't get may have pushed you toward a better path. The plans that failed may have cleared the way for something greater than you imagined. What once felt like your worst setback often turns out to be your greatest blessing in disguise. Loss also teaches us humility. It reminds us that nothing in this world truly belongs to us. Everything we hold, wealth, health, status, even the people we love, are temporary gifts. And when one of those gifts is taken, it hurts, yes, but it also awakens the heart to rely on something deeper, something permanent, something that cannot be taken away. And here's the beauty: every loss carries within it a hidden gift. Sometimes it's patience, sometimes it's wisdom, sometimes it's the discovery of strength you never knew you had. And sometimes it's the opening of your heart to a peace that only comes when you stop clinging to what was never meant to stay. So if you are in the middle of loss right now, if you've lost someone, something, or some part of your life, know this: it may not be the end. It may be the beginning of mercy unfolding in ways you cannot yet see. Life has a way of taking from us, not to break us, but to protect us, to make space for what we truly need, to remind us that real peace doesn't come from what we hold in our hands, but from what we carry in our hearts. Sometimes losing something is not losing at all. Sometimes it is gaining mercy in its purest form. Loss is one of the hardest things a human heart can endure. Whether it's losing a loved one, a relationship, a job, health, or even a dream you've held onto for years, it hurts deeply. The heart aches, the mind fills with questions, and life suddenly feels uncertain. In those moments, it's natural to ask, why me? What did I do wrong? Am I being punished? That question comes from the depth of our pain. We assume that when something is taken away from us, it must mean we are being punished. But the truth is, loss is not always punishment. More often than not, it is a part of the journey, a form of redirection, a lesson, or even a protection we can't yet understand. Think about the times you've lost something in the past. At the moment, it felt like the world had collapsed. The grief was overwhelming. But as time passed, didn't you begin to see things differently? Didn't you realize that the loss, as painful as it was, carried hidden wisdom? Maybe losing that opportunity saved you from a greater harm. Maybe losing that relationship spared you from years of hurt. Maybe the setback you faced actually pushed you toward growth you wouldn't have experienced otherwise. Pain clouds our vision, but loss often hides mercy. We see the empty space in our hands, but we don't realize that sometimes our hands must be emptied before they can be filled again. Holding on to something that isn't meant for us can weigh us down, and its removal, while painful, can be a step toward freedom. Let's take an example. Imagine someone who loses a job they've worked at for years. At first, it feels devastating. They question their worth, their abilities, even their future. but months later, that same person might find themselves in a better position, one that suits their skills more, one that pays better, one that brings real fulfillment. At that point, they look back and think, if I hadn't lost that job, I would never have found this opportunity. What seemed like a curse was actually a blessing in disguise, or consider a broken relationship. The pain of separation feels unbearable. Nights are sleepless, days feel heavy. But later, with time and perspective, the person realizes that staying in that relationship would have caused more harm, more heartbreak, more wounds than they could imagine. What they thought they lost was actually protection, a shield they couldn't see in the moment. This doesn't mean the pain isn't real. Loss hurts. It cuts deep. It leaves scars. But not every scar is a mark of punishment. Some scars are proof of survival, proof that you endured something heavy and came out stronger. They remind you that you are still standing, still breathing, still capable of hope. Loss also reminds us of a bigger truth. Nothing in this world is permanent. Everything we hold is temporary. Wealth, health, success, relationships, all of it is borrowed. All of it is fragile. When we lose, we are reminded not to cling too tightly to what was never truly ours to begin with. It's not about punishment, it's about perspective. Sometimes loss teaches us patience. Sometimes it builds resilience. Sometimes it opens our hearts to compassion, because only those who have suffered deeply can truly understand the pain of others. And sometimes loss simply humbles us, reminding us that we are not in control of everything, that life doesn't always go according to our plans. But here's what's important to remember: if loss were always punishment, no one would ever grow from it. Yet, countless people throughout history and in your own life have grown through loss. They've discovered new strengths, built new paths, and found deeper peace precisely because of what they lost. The pain of loss is real, but so is the mercy hidden within it. It doesn't always reveal itself immediately. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, even years before we look back and realize, what I thought was the end was actually the beginning. What I thought was a punishment was really protection. Loss feels painful, yes. It shakes us, it tests us, it brings us to our knees. But never assume that loss means punishment. More often than not, it means growth, redirection, and a mercy too great to understand in the moment. When we lose something dear to us, the emptiness it leaves behind can feel unbearable. The silence after someone's departure, the quiet after a dream collapses, the sudden void when plans fall apart, it can shake us to the core. In that moment, we only see what is missing. We focus on the gap, the absence, the loss. It feels like life has robbed us of something essential. But what if that very loss was not subtraction, but preparation? What if the space that now feels empty is being cleared to make room for something better? Life has a mysterious way of rearranging itself. Sometimes we cling to things we think are good for us, but in reality they limit us, weigh us down, or keep us from something greater. When they're taken away, it feels like destruction, but in truth, it's construction. The old walls are being torn down to make space for a stronger foundation, a brighter path. Think about a garden. If the soil is crowded with weeds, the seeds you plant won't grow. You have to clear the weeds, dig deep, and prepare the ground before new life can take root. In the same way, when life removes something from us, it's like clearing the soil. It hurts to let go of what's familiar, but only then can something new and beautiful take root. Many of us can look back at moments of loss and realize that what felt like the end was really a beginning. A friendship that faded away may have seemed heartbreaking, but later you meet people who lift you higher, who bring out the best in you. A job rejection may sting, but perhaps it pushes you toward a career that fulfills you more than you ever imagined. Even the failures we hate the most often become the very reasons we discover our true strengths. The truth is, you cannot receive if your hands are already full. Sometimes life has to empty your hands so they can be open for a greater gift. You may not see it immediately, in fact, most of the time you won't. In the moment, the loss feels unbearable. But slowly, as time unfolds, you begin to see the bigger picture. You begin to realize that space was necessary, because without it, the better blessing could never have arrived. There's a powerful comfort in this perspective. It means that your loss is not meaningless. It's not just emptiness, it's space, making, it's clearing the way. Imagine walking through a forest trail where fallen trees block your path. To move forward, those obstacles must be cleared away. Similarly, in life, when a path closes, it's often because a better one is opening up ahead. But here's the challenge, trusting the process. It's easy to say in hindsight, that loss was good for me. But while you're in it, the pain feels raw. You don't yet see the new door opening. And that's where patience and faith come in, the willingness to believe that even though you don't see what's next, something better is being prepared for you. Think of people who lost everything only to rebuild stronger. Someone who lost a business only to start another that thrived. Someone who lost a relationship only to later find one built on love and trust. Someone who faced rejection after rejection only to finally land the opportunity that changed their life. In each story, the loss created the space for something better to arrive. When we stop clinging to what has been taken from us, we begin to notice new possibilities. The space left behind can become a place for growth, for new experiences, for healing, for deeper wisdom. That's the hidden mercy in loss. It's not the end of your story. It's the preparation for a chapter you haven't yet imagined. So, the next time you face loss, try to see beyond the pain. Yes, grieve what's gone. Yes, feel the ache of the absence, but also remind yourself, this space is not empty forever. It is being prepared for something better, something you may not understand now, but something that will one day make you look back and say, that loss was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. As human beings, we are wired to desire. We set our hearts on things, a job, a relationship, a dream, a certain lifestyle, and we convince ourselves that once we get it, we'll finally be complete. We think, if only I had this, my life would be perfect. And so we chase it, we pray for it, we cling to the idea of it as if our happiness depends on it. But the truth is, not everything we want is truly good for us. Some things that look like blessings from the outside may actually be traps. Some paths that seem promising may lead to pain we can't yet see. And sometimes when we lose what we thought we desperately needed, it's not cruelty, it's protection. Think about a child who cries for candy before dinner. To that child, the candy looks like the answer to all their desires. It's sweet, colorful, and satisfying in the moment, but the parent knows better. They know too much candy will spoil the child's appetite, make them sick, and harm them in the long run. So they withhold it. To the child, it feels like unfairness, like being deprived of something good. But to the parent, it's care, it's protection. Life works in a similar way. We may want something with all our hearts, believing it's the key to happiness, but we don't see the whole picture. We don't see the harm it might bring, the way it might weigh us down, or the suffering it could cause in the future. And when that thing is withheld from us or taken away, it's easy to feel anger, sadness, or betrayal. But with time, many of us come to see that not getting what we wanted was actually one of the best things that ever happened. Think of the relationships you once begged to keep, the friendships you chased even though they weren't healthy, the opportunities you cried over when they slipped away. With hindsight, can you see how some of them would have hurt you more than helped you? How staying in those situations would have drained your peace, dimmed your spirit, or distracted you from something better? We are limited in our vision. We see the surface, we see the sparkle, the promise, the excitement, but we don't always see the hidden cracks. We don't see the long nights of struggle that could come with what we think we want. We don't see the compromises we'd have to make, the pain we'd endure, the harm that would eventually unfold. Sometimes what we desperately chase is the very thing that would break us. It's not easy to accept this when we're in the middle of wanting. Desire is powerful. It blinds us to red flags. It convinces us that the only path to happiness is the one we've imagined. So when that path is blocked, we resist, we cry, we feel cheated, but often those blocked paths are saving us from greater harm. Think of a traveler who insists on taking a road because it looks beautiful, lined with flowers and sunshine, but ahead lies a broken bridge, a dangerous cliff, or a dead end. If someone diverts them away from that road, they may feel angry at first, but later they'll realize they were spared from disaster. Life's losses often work the same way. They redirect us from roads that would have harmed us, even if they looked appealing at the start. Sometimes we only understand this truth years later. Looking back, we thank life for not giving us what we thought we wanted. We realize that what we lost was never really ours to begin with, and what we gained instead was far more valuable. The wisdom, the strength, the new opportunities, and the healthier relationships that came after all of it became clear only when we stopped clinging to what wasn't good for us. So the next time you find yourself asking, "Why didn't I get what I wanted? Why was it taken from me?" remind yourself of this: not everything you desire is truly good for you. Sometimes the greatest mercy is in the things withheld, in the paths closed, in the dreams that don't come true. Because often those very losses protect you from pain you couldn't see and lead you instead toward peace you never expected. Comfort is something we all crave. We like when life flows smoothly, when plans unfold the way we imagine, when our hearts feel safe and secure. Comfort feels good, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. But if you reflect honestly, you'll realize that comfort rarely changes you. It soothes you, yes, but it doesn't stretch you, it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't make you discover the strength hidden inside you. Loss, however, does. When we go through loss, whether it's losing someone we love, losing a dream, losing health, or losing stability, it shakes us. It takes us out of the familiar and pushes us into a place we never wanted to be, and while that place feels unbearable at first, it is often where we grow the most. Think about the qualities we admire in people: patience, resilience, humility, wisdom, compassion. Where do these qualities come from? They rarely come from an easy life. They come from the storms. They come from nights of grief, from days of waiting, from years of carrying burdens and learning how to keep walking anyway. Loss forces us to dig deeper. When comfort is taken away, we suddenly realize we have a well of strength we didn't know existed. You don't truly know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. Loss strips away illusions and leaves you face to face with yourself. It shows you what matters and what doesn't. It humbles you, but it also empowers you. Imagine a piece of coal. In its natural state, it's ordinary. But when placed under extreme pressure and heat, it transforms into a diamond. The same principle applies to us. Comfort keeps us as we are, but loss, the pressure of life, the weight of heartbreak, the fire of trials, transforms us. It polishes us, purifies us, and brings out the strength and beauty hidden within us. Consider someone who has never faced hardship. Their life might look enviable from the outside, but inside they may lack depth. Now think of someone who has endured loss, who has buried loved ones, who has faced failure, who has cried silent tears in the night. That person carries a depth you can feel when they speak, when they smile, when they comfort others. Their loss has shaped them into someone richer in soul, someone capable of giving light because they've walked through darkness. Loss also makes us more compassionate. When you've known the sting of grief, you can sit with someone else in their grief and truly understand. When you've walked through failure, you can encourage someone who feels like giving up. Loss teaches empathy in a way that comfort never can. It softens your heart, even as it strengthens your spirit. And perhaps most importantly, loss clears away distractions. When life is comfortable, we can become attached to things that don't truly matter. We chase after success, possessions, or recognition, believing these will give us lasting happiness. But when loss comes, it strips away those illusions. It reminds us that nothing in this world is permanent, and that true peace doesn't come from what we own, but from what we carry inside. There's a quiet wisdom that only loss can teach. Comfort says, stay here, stay safe. Loss says, grow, stretch, discover who you really are. Comfort lulls us into thinking life will always stay the same. Loss wakes us up to the truth that everything changes and that we are capable of surviving that change. So, while we may dread loss and avoid it as much as possible, it is often the very thing that shapes us into our strongest, most authentic selves. Comfort gives us ease, but loss gives us depth. Comfort keeps us still, but loss pushes us forward. Comfort keeps us soft, but loss makes us unbreakable. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is this: nothing lasts forever. Everything we hold, everything we cherish, everything we fear losing, all of it is temporary. The home you live in, the wealth you've earned, the health you enjoy, the people you love, each of these is a gift, but not a permanent one. And while this truth can feel heavy, it can also be incredibly freeing. We often live as if the things around us are permanent. We assume our routines will stay the same, our loved ones will always be near, our plans will always unfold the way we expect. But then life reminds us how fragile it all is. A single phone call, a diagnosis, a sudden change, and everything we thought was stable shifts beneath our feet. Loss teaches us this truth in the most powerful way: nothing in this world is guaranteed. At first, this can sound depressing. If everything is temporary, why bother building? Why bother loving? Why bother dreaming? But in reality, the temporary nature of life is what makes it so precious. Think about a flower that blooms for just a season. Its beauty is more striking precisely because you know it won't last forever. You pause, you appreciate, you breathe it in more deeply because of its fragility. Life is the same. Its temporary nature makes every moment more valuable. When you understand that everything is temporary, your perspective changes. You start to hold things more lightly. You love deeply, but you also accept that people may not always be with you. You work hard for your dreams, but you don't tie your entire identity to them. You enjoy the good moments, knowing they won't last forever, but you also endure the painful ones, knowing they won't last forever either. That's the balance. Temporary doesn't only apply to joy, it also applies to sorrow. Just as happiness isn't permanent, neither is grief. Just as success doesn't last forever, neither does failure. When you are in pain, remembering its temporary nature can give you strength. It whispers, "This too shall pass." When you are in joy, remembering its temporary nature makes you grateful. It whispers, "Cherish this while you have it." Think about the milestones of your own life. The childhood home you once thought you'd never leave gone. The friendships you thought would last forever, some faded. The struggles you thought you'd never overcome, you survived them. Everything shifted, everything changed. And yet with each change you grew, with each ending a new beginning came. Temporary doesn't mean meaningless, temporary means evolving. This truth also frees us from unhealthy attachment. When we forget that everything is temporary, we cling too tightly to things. We tie our happiness to possessions, people, or status. And when life inevitably takes them away, we feel shattered. But when we live with the awareness that nothing is permanent, we appreciate what we have while it's here, without clinging to it as if it's eternal. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you grip it too tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, you can enjoy its presence for a while. Life is like that sand. Hold it gently. Love the people around you, but don't cling as if they'll never leave. Enjoy your blessings, but don't assume they'll never fade. Accept the changes, because change is the only constant. And here's something beautiful. Knowing everything is temporary also helps us find peace in loss. When something is taken from us, yes, it hurts. But if we remind ourselves that it was never meant to last forever, the pain becomes easier to carry. We stop asking, "Why was this taken from me?" and instead begin to say, "I'm grateful I had it for as long as I did." Temporary doesn't lessen the value of things. In fact, it heightens it. A temporary sunset is breathtaking precisely because you know it will fade. A temporary season of laughter is precious because you know it won't last forever. Temporary is not the enemy of meaning, it is the very reason things are meaningful. So, when life changes, when things slip away, when seasons shift, remember, it was always meant to be this way. Everything in life is temporary. And that truth, instead of breaking your heart, can teach you how to love deeper, live fuller, and let go more gracefully. When loss strikes, it feels final. A door shuts, a chapter closes, and we are left staring at the emptiness it leaves behind. Whether it's losing a loved one, a dream, an opportunity, or even a sense of security, the ache of loss can make it feel like everything is slipping through our fingers. In that raw moment, it's almost impossible to believe that anything good could come from it. And yet, with time and perspective, many of us discover that every loss carries a hidden gift. The gift is not always obvious. It rarely comes wrapped in joy. More often, it is disguised in pain, in sleepless nights, in unanswered questions. But if you look closely, if you allow yourself to grow through what you've lost, you begin to see the treasures hidden in the ashes. Sometimes the gift of loss is strength. You may not have chosen to walk through heartbreak, illness, or financial struggle, but you discover a resilience you never knew you had. Loss forces you to dig deeper, to find courage in places you didn't realize existed within you. It teaches you that you can endure more than you thought, that you can bend without breaking. That strength becomes a lifelong gift, one that helps you weather future storms. Sometimes the gift of loss is wisdom. When you lose, you learn, you see the world differently. You begin to understand what truly matters and what doesn't. You let go of superficial concerns and focus on what brings real peace. Loss has a way of stripping away illusions and revealing truths that comfort never could. Wisdom gained through pain becomes a light you carry with you, guiding your choices, shaping your perspective, and even helping others when they are lost in the dark. Sometimes the gift of loss is compassion. Once you've been broken, you can recognize the pain in someone else's eyes. You know what it feels like to cry silently, to question yourself, to long for relief. That empathy becomes a gift you give to others, sitting with them in their grief, offering comfort without judgment, and reminding them they are not alone. Loss softens the heart, even as it strengthens the spirit. And sometimes the gift of loss is redirection. The relationship that ended, the job that slipped away, the dream that crumbled, they may have been pulling you in a direction that wasn't truly meant for you. Their loss created space for something better, something healthier, something more fulfilling. At the time it felt like destruction, but later you realize it was construction. Life was rebuilding your path in a way you couldn't see before. There's also another hidden gift, gratitude. Loss teaches us to cherish what remains. It reminds us that nothing is permanent, and because of that, every moment is precious. You begin to notice the small things you once overlooked: a smile, a sunrise, a kind word, a quiet moment of peace. Loss sharpens your appreciation for life's fleeting blessings, making each day feel like a gift in itself. The hidden gifts of loss don't erase the pain, they don't make the grief less real, but they transform the way you carry it. Instead of loss being just a wound, it becomes a teacher. Instead of only breaking you, it shapes you. Instead of leaving only emptiness, it leaves you with tools, lessons, and strengths that you carry into the rest of your life. And perhaps the greatest gift of all is perspective. Loss teaches us that life is not just about holding on, but also about letting go. It shows us that endings are not always final, they can also be beginnings. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there are seeds of growth waiting to bloom when the time is right. So while you may never choose loss, you can choose how you see it. You can choose to look beyond the pain and search for the gift hidden within. It may be patience, it may be strength, it may be wisdom, compassion, or gratitude, but it will always be there, waiting to be discovered, because every loss, no matter how painful, carries a hidden gift.